All right. So, hello everyone. This is a friend of mine that I met on social media. Her name is Keli, and what captured my attention about Keli is that she is using a ancient method to help us women alleviate discomfort and some of the challenges that many of us women have been experiencing, even myself. So I am so glad to present to you Keli, who is going to talk to us about V-steaming and what V-steaming is, because I believe every single woman should know about this. And I'm really curious myself because it's not something that I am an expert in, but would like to know so I can share it with the rest of the world. So Keli, thank you so much for being here with us today.
Thank
Keli,
you for
so
having me.
tell us a little bit about yourself and how did you come up across this type of therapy?
Sure. So I am the owner of a company called Steamychick. So I distribute vaginal steam supplies and I train practitioners such as acupuncturists to be able to integrate vaginal steaming into their therapies that they offer. It turns out with acupuncture, vaginal steaming is already part of traditional Chinese medicine. It's just not something that's commonly taught in acupuncture universities in the US. However, it is popular in Korea and China. In certain hospitals and regions, vaginal steaming is a regular part of traditional Chinese medicine care. So how did I get into this? I was actually wanting to link up with my friend. Her name is Sochi. So I hit her up. I was like, Sochi, let's hang out. And she goes, okay, I'm just at this womb healing circle, so why don't you meet me here and then we'll go to the club. So I was like, okay. So I ended up at this Mayan womb healers meeting, and so I go in and I'm like late, I'm in the back, and like all these women are sitting around in the dark with candles on doing like kundalini yoga exercises, like doing all these stretches to stretch the womb and like all this great stuff, and she started to talk and tell people about if there are certain period problems, then you can do vaginal steaming. And at that point I checked out. I was like, what? This is crazy. What are these ladies doing? I wasn't evolved enough to understand how important it was. So anyways, I forgot about it. I left, I went to the club. No, I mean, I finished, the meeting. I met everybody. I left and I went to the club. And I never thought about it again until the next year I was having a period problem. My period was missing. I wasn't pregnant. It was missing. And I, was somebody who was prone to my periods going missing. But this time I noticed that my PMS was just horrid. It was just so bad. So I was like, okay, what if my period came back? Would that resolve this like hormonal imbalance I feel like I'm having? And so I was like, yeah, that makes sense that would resolve that. So I was like, how do I make my period come? And I was just like, I don't know. I've never wanted my period to come. I have no idea how to make it come. And so I went to sleep just with that thought. And I woke up the next morning and I was like, vaginal steaming. So I woke up and I realized I thought that vaginal steaming might be the answer to my questions. So I started to look for vaginal steaming. This was in 2012. So, 6 years ago, very different time for vaginal steaming. And I could find nothing on. So I continued to look and look and look. And I did find one article where I learned that there was the Korean name for vaginal steaming, which was chayok. So then I Googled chayok, and I found a spa in Los Angeles, a Korean spa for women that had chayok, vaginal steaming. And so I went there. But the whole time I was there, I was like, this is weird. I was like, I learned this from a Guatemalan girl. I was like, and now these, I'm at a Korean spa. So I did a vaginal steam, which it was way out of my comfort zone. So it was way out of my comfort zone. It was really hot. I didn't know that it was supposed to be that hot. People were coming in and leaving and looking at me, and there was a lot of things about it that wasn't like ideal for my vaginal steam session. So I can't really speak too much to that, but I got through with the steam session. And since I was talking to the receptionist and owner, and were asking me questions the whole time, I started to learn a couple of things. And one was that vaginal steaming is traditional Korean practice. It's done in Korea. It's commonplace there. And number two, that women use it regularly to prevent period problems from arising. And then number 3, that it can be used to treat a wide like variety of women's health concerns. So I was like, okay, this is interesting. So I went home, and I want to say I went to sleep, and then my period came immediately that night. So I had a very effective result. That fast, just like that. And so not only did I get a result right away, my period was way healthier. So I am not an acupuncturist. I'm an acupuncture patient. Okay, I like going to acupuncturists. And somewhere along the road, I learned that brown blood is a sign of my poor circulation and liver qi stagnation, okay? But when you think about the womb and the uterus, what's actually happening if you see brown blood in your period is that there's old brown blood in there that's gotten old because of your poor circulation and hasn't gotten out. And so I knew this, and I had been troubled by this. I had been trying to work on my circulation. I was taking those bitter herbs that you guys like to give us. I was taking all of the herb blends, and I still had that brown blood in my period. Well, when my period came after this vaginal steam, the thing that really stood out to me was that there was no more brown blood. All I had was fresh red blood. And so I was like, wow, that is incredible. It was able to clear out all of that old residue. And I had a more healthy period at this point. So I decided, okay, I guess I need to add this to my healthcare, like my preventative healthcare practices. So the Korean women told me do it once every month at the end of your period to make sure that you clear everything out and that you don't have any problems. And so I've been doing that ever since 2012. And somewhere along the road, other people found out about it. Somewhere along the road, you know, when women were mentioning their terrible cramps or, you know, just all these different issues. And I found out, oh, there's brown blood in there. I said, okay, well, I know a really good way to clear out that old residue. So, so somewhere along the road, I ended up providing vaginal steam supplies to women. So for example, now I have a line of herbs for different issues that I distribute all over the country. So, and then I became kind of like a focal point for the education around vaginal steaming, because remember how I was worried about the Guatemalan Korean thing? I was like, who learned it from who? Like, what's going on here? Where is it really from, right? Well, after that, shortly, I found out that it was also used in Ghana and then Haiti. So now this is getting worse. I'm just like, okay, there's a lot of places that this is from. And to date, I have found 4.
The connection's not so good. It's breaking up. Are you still there?
I have found in common, like.
Yeah, okay. Now I can see you, but it's kind of breaking up. It must be, you got good weather there?
Yeah, I think I have a strong connection.
You do? Okay, so yeah, so do I.
Hold on. Let me, I might be.
It was kind of going in and out for a little while too.
Okay. Am I back? Is this better?
That's better. That's
okay.
Better, yes. Okay. So you were talking about the 4
countries where vaginal steaming, I found it in these 4 different countries. And then to date, I actually started to record the different places that I finding it. And then like who was telling me, you know, or how did I find out that it's from that country? And then also what herbs they were using and what they were using to treat. And to date, I found over 40 different countries where vaginal steaming is practiced. And so I have concluded that vaginal steaming is a universal practice that women have always used. And it predated modern day gynecology. And one of the reasons why women in certain places have lost their knowledge of it is because women's health used to be in the hands of women, midwives in particular. And there was modern day gynecology has not always worked hand in hand with midwives. And specifically in the United States, midwifery was illegal for about 100 years. And during that time, I believe is where the knowledge of it was lost. And then I also see this occurring in other countries where there's the transition from traditional care to modern care. The modern care with the doctors, they haven't studied vaginal steaming, and they're not aware of it, and so they're not bringing it with them. It's not something that they're providing to women, although it does have a lot of value. Some of the things that women are using it to treat traditionally, the most common is postpartum, for after giving birth, and that's universal. But then there's certain places where they use it to treat cancer. They use it to treat infertility, infections. And so those uses aren't universally known. Usually there's like, there's different things that are used to treat in different places. So like in Guatemala and Haiti, they use it to treat sexual abuse and trauma. It's actually a firsthand treatment after somebody is raped. So anyway, so that's some knowledge that they have, but not necessarily universal knowledge about it. So pulling it all together gives us this amazing picture of a very dynamic women's medicine tool that can be used to treat a wide variety of problems.
Wow, that was more than I expected. I think it's going to be a lot more than what anybody expected. I mean, this is the first time I remember even touching on this topic. So there's a lot of things that this type of treatment can treat and help just help women in a lot of different kinds of discomfort. Can you rattle off some of the things that have come to mind?
Sure. So I have worked with over 700 women one-on-one using vaginal steaming to address their gynecological issues. So that's where my knowledge is coming from firsthand. And then there's probably thousands more women that have used the products from my company and used the tutorials on my website. And so they're constantly tagging me online or leaving reviews and then sharing their success stories as well, although I haven't been able to follow everyone. We do need more information about this in general. But from the case studies that I've compiled, the anecdotal evidence shows that vaginal steaming absolutely can treat, the number one easiest thing for it to treat is cramps and old residue and clots. So all of these are signs that a woman is not getting a full uterine cleanse, and that that there's old menses in her uterus that's packing up from month to month. Okay, one of the main reasons why women get this is because they plug it up. We plug up the period. We don't actually let it come out. So people will constantly say, oh, well, the vagina is self-cleansing. First of all, we are talking about the uterus here and the uterine cleanse. And the uterus is self-cleansing. That's what the period is. But since we plug it up, women, you'll see that I would say over 90% of women have signs of old residue in there. So that's going to be the brown blood. Some women, it's black blood. And then the clots is going to be another sign of that. And then the cramps happens as a result of that. Okay, so the uterus starts to cramp to try to push this stuff out that it can't get out. So the uterus is actually just chiming in to try to get this old residue out. So anyways, it treats old residue. It gets that old residue out of there. And when that old residue is out, cramps are completely gone. The period pain is completely gone. So even women that they started their first period in excruciating pain, that faint, and throw up during their periods. Those are the worst of periods. I hate hearing about them. And yet those women are able to get to, within a couple months using vaginal steaming, are able to get all of that old residue out and be able to have completely pain-free periods. So it's just incredible. The next really important one is infertility. So infertility is kind of related. The majority of unexplained infertility cases actually have that old residue buildup. So one of the things about fertility is that, when it comes to like fertility specialists, they're looking at the quality of the eggs, the quality of the sperm, and then when that they're together at the same time. Okay, so a lot of times they'll assume that there's a timing issue. Okay, and so the treatments, they'll actually take out the eggs and sperm and put them in the uterus, or put them together and then put them in the uterus. Well, guess what? After the egg and sperm unite, it has to implant in the uterine wall. And then the, what's it called? The, sorry, what's the name of the placenta has to then grow on the uterus wall as well, okay? So if the walls are caked up with old residue, then this becomes a problem for conception. So old residue is basically one of the, I believe it's the main reason why women have unexplained infertility. So women have been using vaginal steaming very successfully to clear out the old residue and then be able to conceive. Okay, so so then the next thing is going to be infections. So a lot of women have infections, and infections usually, there's going to be two natures. There's damp-natured infections and then dry-natured infections. So the damp-natured ones are more common, and they go along with green mucus and discharge, yellow discharge, thick discharge, all of this. This is going to be like what I call irregular discharge. So that irregular discharge is like a breeding ground for germs, okay? It's kind of like the same when you have a runny nose. You know that if it's green, you know there's germs in it, right? So you want to get everything out. You want to clear everything out. Well, it's the same with the vagina and the uterus. We want to decongest all of that irregular mucus that's in there. Now, the good stuff, there is some mucus that's natural. It's clear. It's like nectar. A lot of times people refer to it as egg white, but I think that's misleading because it's not supposed to be white. It's supposed to be clear, okay? So it's this clear nectar and it smells good. And we know that as the fertile stuff, okay? So everything else is basically a sign of congestion, okay? Like as if you had a runny nose, okay? So anyway, steaming pulls that right out. It pulls that mucus out. So when women steam who have irregular discharge, then the mucus comes out. And if you steam consecutively, then more and more of that mucus comes out. And it's kind of like gross, but it's also kind of fun. Like this one lady emailed me and she goes, okay, she goes, Slimer from the Ghostbusters just came out of me. Slimer. She's like, I can't even, it was so big and so gross and so green and so slimy, and I've never seen anything like that. And this was on day 3 or 4 of steaming, you know, and Slimer came out of her, right? Well, this woman had chronic bacterial vaginosis. And after she was able to get all of that mucus out, all of that irregular mucus, the bacterial vaginosis didn't return. And that's one of the issues with bacterial vaginosis, that it comes back. After the antibiotics, it comes back time and time again. Well, unless you clear that mucus, you're still harboring a wonderful vacation home for bacteria, for bad bacteria, right? And not only that, the good bacteria is overwhelmed. So the good bacteria can't fight it off. It just can't fight it off, right? So anyways, once you clear all of that out, then the good bacteria is able to repopulate and keep the bad bacteria away, and be able to actually treat, to be able to address, you know, these chronic cases of bacterial vaginosis, for example. And one of the things that goes along with these chronic cases of bacterial vaginosis are yeast infections, or that goes along with taking the antibiotics, then people get those yeast infections. And so it's the same with yeast. The yeast lives very well in that mucus. But with yeast, hydration is also an issue. So hydration needs to be addressed as well. But these are just some of the most common things that it treats. Now, from traditional Chinese medicine point of view, fibroids are considered very differently than they are in Western medicine. Fibroids are considered congealed phlegm. And one of the things that I see with women who have a lot of irregular discharge, they also commonly have fibroids. And one of the things that happens when people do this discharge cleanse with steaming is that clumps of white mucus comes out. Big, you know, people who do have confirmed fibroids have reported them coming out in the toilet or in the shower. They actually come out as a result of vaginal steaming. And then other people who were unaware of having fibroids have had similar things come out, you know, big clumps of, you know, thick, you know, balls of white mucus, you know, white fibroids.
Yeah.
It's very interesting, very dynamic. It's incredible. And then it goes on. So endometriosis is again, you know, is endometriosis, PCOS, premenstrual PMS gets better. It helps to balance out. I think having the clear uterus helps the body to do what it needs to do to balance out the hormones properly. And then with that, there's going to be premenstrual dysphoric disorder, which is when women are suicidal as a, you know, before their periods come because their PMS is so strong. So anyhow, so it appears to treat everything. I even had one woman, she came to me and she said, my whole uterus is scarred over. The inside of my uterus is scarred over, and so I can't conceive because of it. And, you know, she was telling me a little bit more about that. She had 17 fibroids, and she had done a fibroid surgery. And when they removed all the fibroids, her uterus scarred over. Well, her doctors had never considered that she was prone to keloids. They had never thought about that. So anyway, so scarring as a result. And so her uterus scarred over. And so she's telling me this, and I was just like, I don't know, but I do know that you have all these cramps. I do know you have all this brown blood. You're not getting a good uterine cleanse. Let's try to use steaming for that. Well, she emailed me and she told me the scar tissue is coming out. And I was just like, I don't know what that means or what that looks like. I was like, what do you mean? She said, it looks like jerky. It's coming out. Like, I see it on the toilet paper when I go to the bathroom, and then like whole pieces are coming out. And I was just like, whoa, you know, like just in shock. So her doctors, she worked with steaming for 3 months, and her doctors, as a result of this scar tissue, had referred her to another doctor who was now going to try to surgically remove the scar tissue with the 50-50 chance that it wouldn't grow back, right? So she goes to this specialist, and they're looking at her ultrasound. And so they do another ultrasound with her now after 3 months of vaginal steaming, and specifically that she had seen the scar tissue come out. They couldn't find one trace of scar tissue in her uterus.
How many times did she do the therapy? Every day?
She was doing it every other day, and then she started doing it every day after a while. So she did it, she would have done, you know, and then she had her period. So it would have been like 90 times that she did the steaming minus the days of her period. So like, you know, 75 treatments maybe. But, you know, the thing is, what she received was equivalent to a surgery. That is a lot of steaming, but she received an entire uterine cleanse. She received like an entirely new uterus after that 3 months of dedicated steaming. And now she doesn't have to go through surgery again, which has a lot of side effects that women don't always all the way recover from, right? And has a lot of dangers with it. So to be able to use steaming for things that women are getting surgery for, I mean, women get surgeries because of fibroids. Women get surgeries because of, women get hysterectomies because of cramps. If you're ever at the doctor, I didn't realize this, but so many women have reported, the doctor says, are you finished having children? Then the very next thing that they're going to do is offer a hysterectomy. And this is for cramps, you know, in a lot of cases. It's incredible. And then a really interesting one has been heavy bleeding. Women who have heavy bleeding, especially if they've already have children, the doctor's solution for it is often a hysterectomy. Just take the whole entire uterus out, you know, and surgery. So it's pretty interesting. So steaming can help with heavy bleeding as well. One of the reasons why heavy bleeding happens is because of this old residue. The body will a lot of times just like, send more blood, let's flush it out, you know. So the uterus is trying to flush out this old residue, and that's one reason why women end up with this heavy bleeding. The other reason is because of uterine fatigue. Their uterus is actually tired, and so it can't hold the blood in the channels. The uterus is too tired, right? So, so two things there. One is that the vaginal steaming helps to get the old residue out, and then the other one is that the woman needs to learn proper period care and rest during the period in order to re-energize the womb so that it doesn't flood out like that. And another thing, another symptom of this uterine fatigue is when women have short menstrual cycles. So menstrual cycles are supposed to be 29 days on average. And if women's period is coming every 20 days or every 25 days, that means that her period is actually coming early. It doesn't matter if it's always happened. Her period actually should happen on average every 29 days. And so that's something that I call uterine fatigue. And it's just that the uterus is too tired to hold the blood in, and so it lets go early, right? So proper period care and rest is also part of this. It's something that I, you know, try to get all of my, you know, everybody that I work with to do, because it makes a huge difference, right? But these women who have been, my whole point was these women whose doctors want to do hysterectomies on them because they're 40 and have already had a child and they have this heavy bleeding, they're able to get it under control within a couple months with vaginal steaming, which was very interesting to me. That was a very interesting, it wasn't a natural, correlation I made that vaginal steaming would be able to treat that. But every day, it almost seems like we're finding new things that vaginal steaming treats. It's just incredible.
And I can imagine just by doing that as well, it's also going to clear up your skin because you're improving the circulation as well, right? And you also mentioned that it helps with mental clarity and stress because as women, we hold on to a lot of our emotions in our root chakra, right?
Yeah. So one of my theories about vaginal steaming is that, so actually a couple things. So number one, this acupuncturist was telling me there's a point right there, right? And that point is going to be what connects to the cycle.
It's the Ren and the Du channel, yes.
There you go. So there's a point that's going to connect to that whole channel right there. And helping to get circulation and movement in that channel helps clear the mind. It helps, with the circulation, the entire circulation of the whole body. So that's number one. So you're going to be clearing stagnation. Number two is that, yes, women do hold things in their womb. Literally, we talk about having bad blood means that you have things in your past that you haven't forgiven, right? You have old blood, right?
That's right.
We literally are holding on to old blood when we don't have clear uteruses, when we're not getting our uterine cleanse, right? So clearing out that old blood clears out the old blood that we're holding on to, right? And so it's just like this very like physiological, reason why it helps women to let go of things from the past and move on, right? And then the third thing is the steam is directly touching the vaginal canal and the cervix, okay? So the cervix, I found this study by a university in the Northwest, and they did a study and that found out that stimulating the cervix and the inside of the uterine releases oxytocin. Well, their study was on rats. No comment on that, but they were studying on rats, and they found out that when they stimulate the cervix and the inside of the uterus, that it results in a 200% release of oxytocin. Well, oxytocin is a hormone that makes women feel in love and makes women feel relaxed and makes women feel sleepy. Okay, so and it also improves breast milk production. So this incredible hormone that women need, and it's the happiness drug. It's the happiness hormone, right? And so with steaming, one of the common things that women report is feeling relaxed afterwards and wanting to take a nap. And then another thing that women report is less stress. And then another thing that they report is better sex and better orgasms and stuff. And so all of this relates back to if it's stimulating the cervix directly, and if that is resulting in a release of oxytocin, then that's going to be a physiological explanation for why women are reporting those side effects as a result of steaming. It's pretty incredible. There was a woman who steamed last week actually, and she had a premature baby who was in the hospital for a couple months, and she's been struggling to breastfeed this child and make sure that he's able to grow and prosper. And she has been struggling with having enough breast milk and has to supplement. And she did a steam, she did a vaginal steam, and she said she felt them just fill up immediately while she was still sitting on the steam sauna. She said both breasts filled up, and that she had never had both breasts fill up like that, obviously because she had been separated from the baby. In an unnatural way. So, so there are a lot of signs that do show that perhaps vaginal steaming is creating an oxytocin release.
Well, that's incredible that we can go on and on and on about all these wonderful things about vaginal steaming. Are there any other things that you like to address? There's lots of symptoms. I mean, there's lots of things.
It's a lot. It's I would say it's really incredible for postpartum care. So I think the postpartum care, one of the reasons why it's universal for postpartum care is because of how effective it is. So I steamed, I have 2 children, and I steamed after both of them. And my body went completely back. My vaginal canal closed as tight as it had ever been. My uterus went back into position. I remember the midwife checking on me, and she was just like, it was after like, it was 1 week postpartum, and she was just like, your uterus is all the way back down to size. She was like, why is this? You know, I was just like, I'm steaming, you know, so it's just like the results for postpartum recovery are really big. And then there's a lot of things that happen that we say are just part of having a baby, or your body will never be the same. I actually don't believe that's true. I believe that women all over the whole entire world had it right, that steaming postpartum is going to help get a woman's body back to normal and get her back to her pre-pregnancy body. And that is what I believe, that is what women's standard for postpartum care has always been. And I think right now we have something which isn't, you know, anywhere near that standard. A 6-week checkup by the doctor while a woman has not had any medical care, you know, after being discharged from the hospital, is really inadequate compared to the steaming that women used to do postpartum universally. So that's another really big one. And strangely enough, I don't know why I don't get more postpartum customers. Like, I think that postpartum is like the number one thing. Women are having babies every day, but for some reason it's really hard to convince women that they need to be ready to steam postpartum.
It's just the lack of knowledge, lack of knowing that it's available to them and not knowing what it is. And so it's funny. I'm glad that you mentioned that, because today I'm teaching a class on essential oils, and pregnancy and postpartum is one of those topics that we do cover, you know, how to use the oils to help improve the body's ability to be in a relaxed state. But I will definitely add this into it because it's very applicable.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow. Well, was there one more thing that you had wanted to mention regarding the things that what vaginal steaming does and what it can treat? Was that all? Was that pretty much it?
I think that's good. I think that's good for now.
Okay, great.
You know, so on the Steamychick website, I have a blog, and what I've tried to do in my blog is feature the different women who are using vaginal steaming for different purposes and what results they've had. So it's kind of like the go-to place for a lot of times. People are like, well, I wonder if it can help with, you know, vaginismus, or I wonder if it can help with, you know. So for example, right now you show this woman, this poor woman, she so it says, this was one of my customers. She asked if she could write a testimonial. I said, yes, absolutely. I didn't realize the extent to what she had gone through, but basically she was put on some birth control meds that ended up resulting in a big clot, and she died and then was brought back to life as a result of these clots that she suspected she had. And she went to the doctor and the hospital, and they sent her home and said, you don't have clots. That's a very rare. It turned out she did. Almost to the point that she wasn't able to come back. But after that, she's just figured that she needed to find a different way. And she was taking the birth control to treat heavy bleeding. So she started steaming and was able to. Not only heavy bleeding, she had prolonged bleeding. I believe she bled for 75 days straight, and her doctors put her.
Wow.
So she used Yunnan Bayao, a Chinese medicine herb, which I suggested to her. She used that to get the bleeding to stop, and then did steaming periods down to 7 days. And I'm still working with her to get them done.
That's phenomenal. Yeah, Yunnan Bailao is a very popular herbal formula for women. We administer it internally, and that is a great herb to be using. You use it in its dry form, or do you use?
No, I had her take it internally. Because you can't steam when you're bleeding. So I needed her to stop bleeding and then steam in order to be able to correct the problem.
I see. Well done. So let's navigate your website a little bit and take us to some of the most some of the highlights of your website. So this is a blog.
So this is the blog, and then right underneath there, you're going to see the herbs. The herbs is I have developed a line of custom herbs. So for example, for women who have heavy bleeding and short cycles, I have a blend specifically for them that's going to help resolve that issue. For women with missing periods and endometriosis, I have a blend for them. So these are going to be the different Steamychick herbal blends. Then people always want to know, okay, well, you know, you can figure out which herbs you need, but then what do I do? When do I steam? How do I do this? So check out the DIY tutorial. So this is the do-it-yourself tutorial. So you can go in here and there's going to be a link to click and it's going to ask you, okay, how long are your cycles? How long are your periods? What color is your blood? And it's going to give you suggestions based on whatever your starting cycle is, because steaming is different per person, okay? Now, if you want to work with a practitioner, I do train practitioners who are able to do the consultation and create a steam protocol for you, so check out consulting services under there. So, you guys, I get messages all day long. Hey, I have this. How do I steam? You know, and what herbs do I use? Please just go to the website. I have all of the resources on here. My consulting services, we can do it by email, phone, or in person. And I have a licensed midwife who does all of these consultations. And she's also a trained vaginal steam specialist, so she can help, you know, with any one of the issues that I've mentioned and more. And then, if you want to find a practitioner rather than doing a consultation, you know, like that, then here is the directory of all the practitioners that I'm training all over the world. And to note, the little red dots, if you click that little window right next to vaginal steam directory, like at the top. So at the top of the map, yes, if you click on that, you can see the different kinds of specialists. So if you scroll down, I'm really excited about the Chinese medicine steam therapist. Yes. So that one, actually, you would have to, yeah, let's see.
Okay.
So those are going to be those like orange dots. And so these are acupuncturists who are also specialized to use vaginal steaming to work with their clients.
Okay, so I can unclick the other ones and then just focus on the acupuncturists that are
exactly. So we only have a couple so far, but if you click on one of those little links, you'll be able to see the acupuncturists and their information.
Great resource. Absolutely.
And of course, if you don't find a vaginal steam practitioner near you, you should become a vaginal steam practitioner. We need help. I was getting, I think, 200 emails per day of women just saying, please, I need help. How could I use steaming to address this issue? I don't want to do surgery, and I need results right away, you know, or else my doctor is going to force me to have her surgery, or my husband is going to force me to have surgery. I mean, just all kinds of stuff that I receive, you guys. So I started training practitioners so that I can't help everybody. So this practitioner, these are my practitioners. These are the people that can help you do, you know, what I'm able to do with.
And then you also make the box and you sell the box. You sell the kits, right?
I don't make the saunas, but I do have a sauna marketplace. So if you click on sauna marketplace, these are sauna makers all over the U.S. And if you scroll down even more, you can see their saunas. These are all the vaginal steam saunas that you can. So what we do is we list vaginal steam saunas from different sauna makers.
I see.
So you just choose whichever one you like, and then that will take you to the sauna maker, to their website, and you can order it directly from them.
They're beautiful.
Yeah, they're great, and they range. They average about $300, and it's worth it. It's a one-time purchase, and you can use it throughout your whole entire life. All the women of the same household can use it. You just would wipe it down between users, you know, and it can really you know, be a difference, you know, for women's health.
Okay, and then you also have obviously continuing education, and this is just for medical practitioners, or what is this for? Who is this for?
So I have so for example, acupuncturists already use acupuncture and herbs. So we have a course for acupuncturists to learn how to also integrate vaginal steaming with their clients. So, and then I also have a course for midwives, and then also for estheticians to use it for skincare. So it's like how to use vaginal steaming with your current profession. That's going to be the continuing education. And then we also do have continuing education units that are available for the midwives and the acupuncturists. But then for certification, this is for somebody who doesn't necessarily have a degree in a health-related field, but would like to bring vaginal steaming to the girls, to the women around them, the women in their circle. So the vaginal steam facilitator is the basic level of like how to set up vaginal steaming and pick the right herbs and make sure that you're not steaming somebody who has contraindications. And then the postpartum peristeam practitioner course it's a program. It's a 30-course program to learn how to treat everything under the sun with vaginal steaming. So that's where I go through every single one of these issues and how to treat it with the vaginal steaming and the herbs, and how to be able to, you know, assess women's periods and determine what kind of treatment plan they would need.
So if it's approved for midwives, it's also approved for doulas.
Yes, doulas are when you look at that map of vaginal steam practitioners, a lot of them are doulas.
Wonderful, wonderful. Well, thank you so much, Keli, for your time. This is just a wealth of information, and I'm so glad to be able to bring this to my community. I've got so many friends who are having babies, and I myself have, you know, concerns as well. And so thank you. This is wonderful, and I am looking forward to revisiting some of the the other topics in length, you know, so that way we can really give a deeper understanding and start raising the frequency on how these herbs work and how your technique is valuable to all women in our culture. So thank you so much for your time, and thank you for joining us, and stay tuned. If you want more information, go to steamychick.com. like you see here on the website, and also like Keli's Facebook page and get in touch with her, ask her questions. Like you said, she is available for you. She has a team of people who are also following her and helping her, you know, support you women in your lifestyle. So thanks for joining us.